Well, Sweta, thank you for joining us today. We were discussing compensation with a number of private equity, venture capital and credit investors, helping them understand their compensation and how they can go about key points of negotiation. And one of the critical areas of investment professional compensation is carried interest. As a specialist in that area, what are some of the key things that you think people need to know?
There are a couple of key things that people need to know, one of them being how carried interest is structured, what the terms of the carried interest are, and the way in which you can sort of find out more is to inquire about the key documents surrounding carried interest, so asking for things like the limited partnership agreement, the LPA, which will contain all of the governing terms of carried interest vehicles, and also the surrounding documents as well, just to get a broad overview of what carried interest looks like and how it's structured.
Mm-hmm. So there's the LPA. Are there any other documents that you need to be familiar with?
Absolutely. So there's the LPA, there's a subscription agreement, and that's the agreement by which you sign up to become a limited partner in the actual carry vehicle. There's also a couple of tax forms, Section 431 election. There's also an allocation letter which your employer will give you. It's a purely confidential letter, and it'll set out the terms of your carry allocation.
Okay, so the percentage amount
Exactly.
that you're going to be getting. Interesting. And how much do people tend to negotiate around that allocation amount?
I think it's a growing area, and we have seen a lot of negotiation around allocation, around the actual amount of carried interest that you get. I'm sure that there's conversations happening at that level in terms of putting them into practice. The key terms that are negotiated are, for example, good leaver, bad leaver provisions, how distributions are made, and also vesting, how your carry vests over your period of employment.
What's the most typical vesting schedule that you see at the moment?
Typical vesting schedules are straight line vesting, so a portion of your carried interest vests per year, and it's the same proportion per year. It's often linked to the investment period of the fund, and that's straight line vesting. So that's the most common. We do sometimes see delayed vesting, whereby there's no vesting for a period of 2 years, and then vesting sort of kicks in after then. I'd say those are the two main things that we see.
And once you've got your carry, obviously that is the significant upside in this industry where people do make their millions. Do you always have that? Is that then yours, even if you don't stay with the fund, to take with you?
No. So unfortunately, if you leave to join a competitor, often your employer will treat you as a bad leaver, and the bad leaver provisions of the LPA will apply. And the standard position there is that you lose your carried interest entitlement, you're vested and you're unvested. Unfortunately, that is market standard, and it's the correct approach because carried interest is obviously set up so that you stay at the firm, and if you leave, therefore you lose that carried interest.
But is it up to the discretion of the manager to a certain case? I mean, is there a way to go to a competitor as a good leaver?
There can be. It depends on the terms that you can put in place with your employer at the start of your employment, or even sort of as your employment progresses. Managers often put in place mechanisms within the LPA which gives them discretion to vary vesting and vary the way that they treat certain employees, often if they don't want to sort of burn a bridge if an employee leaves. So there are options, but again, it depends on what the actual LPA says.
Okay. And when it comes to understanding your carry, how much information can you ask for?
I think the answer there is that you should ask for as much information as possible. These are your rights, this is your carried interest entitlement, so you should be asking for things like the governing documents, the LPA. You should be asking what sort of terms are available for people that are entitled to carried interest. So as much information as possible.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much, Sweta. It's been great to have you here today, and I think really informative for all the professionals. Thank you.
Thank you very much.